So here we are for yet another unboxing, and today we have the Maverick Quantum 2 Flux monster truck. Now for those of you who are fairly new to the channel and aren't too familiar with Maverick, they are of course owned by HBI Racing, and these is kind of their more affordable brand of cars. These Quantum 2s are actually not, if you notice, they're not being called Quantum V2, they're actually a Quantum 2. And the reason for that is because this is essentially a brand new truck. So I think 90% of this has been completely changed. There are very few parts from this truck that are actually compatible with the previous Quantum trucks. So yeah, just bear that in mind that this isn't exactly a version 2, it's essentially a brand new truck. Now what does that mean for the original Quantums? Well, as far as I'm aware, and after speaking with HBI, they will be supporting those trucks for quite some years yet. So if you've got one of the original Quantums, don't worry too much, there will be still plenty of parts available going forward. But of course this now is the Q2 Flux, and just like the previous models, they will be available in a couple of different colors, and of course you'll have the brushless, which is this one here, and you'll also have the brushed. So you can get even a cheaper version if you don't want to go full brushless just yet. And I believe that those brushed ones, at least the original ones, came with a battery and charger. So the new ones might come with a battery and charger as well, I'm not entirely sure. But in any case, this one, still a 10th scale, new body designs, new color schemes and all the rest of it. Comes with LED lights installed now as standard, which is really cool. Also a brand new radio. Let's get rid of that box and let's have a better look at this guy. And I'll take you through all the little bits and pieces that you get with the Flux version at least. Now, of course, I am fairly familiar with the Quantum cars. You can see I've got two of them back there. The red one is the standard truggy version in Flux. And then I've also got the Quantum Plus over there with the custom painted body. So as you can see, when you take this guy out of the box, you get the truck fully assembled and ready to go. You get a brand new radio, and you also get a little baggie with a couple of bits and pieces in here. Well, not really. There's just an antenna tube that you need to install in the truck. And also you get a little bit of literature here just to kind of join the HBI app program thing, whatever, I don't know, I don't even look at that too much. And then they give you a Quantum quick start guide. Now the quick start guide isn't like a full manual, it's just so that you can get the car sort of up and running. So you kind of tells you what you get, what you need to get, and then it gives you a bit of a rundown on how to charge your batteries, where to plug everything in, a bit of a rundown on the radio and what that has to, you know, all the buttons do and all the triggers and all that sort of stuff. Whole bunch of reading in here that I'm sure a lot of you will be doing. There's a parts list back here. And then right at the back, there's some exploded views for the shocks, the chassis, and all the front end and rear end and everything like that. So that's actually kind of handy, because if you do break something or you need to replace something for whatever reason, at least you've got that information there. There is more information on the Maverick website, so I'll actually link that in the video description as well. So if you guys want to go and have a bit of a look, there's instructions for the ESC and, you know, more detailed stuff that you can have a look at there. But that is pretty much everything that you get out of the box. Now the radio, I gotta say, I'm actually pretty impressed with. Not only is it a brand new radio that I've never seen before, it actually does feel really good in the hand. Like the way that the trigger is positioned, the weight of the trigger also feels really good. And just the fact that they've actually got the batteries in the handle and not at the base really gives it a very nice center of gravity. So it doesn't feel top heavy or bottom heavy or anything like that, because you're kind of holding most of the weight is in the middle there. The only criticism for me is really the wheel feels a little bit small and probably very light. So you probably could use some slightly stronger springs there, but there's no collapsible antennas or anything like that. Plus you got this kind of like carbon fiber look to it, which doesn't look too bad, I think. It works quite well if my camera would focus there. And then on the back here, you've actually got a whole bunch of switches and some on the side, which we'll talk about real quick. So I've actually just put some 4AA's in here, which of course are not included with the car. So you can press and hold the center button there, and that turns it on, and then press and hold again, and that turns it off. Around the on-off button, you have these little buttons here. These are for your steering trim, so left and right, and you've got throttle trim up and down. These little dials here, you have brake strength. Now the brake on this also correlates to the reverse speed. So if you turn down the brakes, you're also going to be turning down the reverse speed. So just bear that in mind. You have steering dual rates over here and throttle dual rates over here, which are actually really handy, especially for those that are a bit inexperienced in the hobby. You know, you're going to put a big powerful battery in this car. It's brushless. If you've never had a car that goes like, as fast as these do, or if you've never had an RC car in general, really handy to turn that down and then slowly turn it up as you get more and more comfortable with the car. Reverse switches here for both channels. You shouldn't have to touch those out of the box. And then down the side here, there's also a couple more switches. Now these ones up the top here, I don't know what these do. I don't think they're connected to anything. I had a bit of a play around with it and I couldn't really get them to do anything. The slider switch though is actually for your LEDs. Now I don't know which way is which way, but if you have it all the way to one side, it turns all the LEDs off. So both front and rear LEDs end up being off. You slide it up into the middle and you only turn the rear on. You slide it all the way forward and then both the rear and the front will actually be on. The rear LED also brightens up when you hit the brakes. So that's a really nice trick that it does. And aside from that, that's pretty much it. There's nothing on this side. You got a little lanyard loop just here, and it actually, it's a really good size. I mean, to give you an idea of what it was like with the previous radio, this is the old Quantum radios, and you can see that it's quite a fair bit big, a fair bit bigger, I should say, and the battery was actually down the bottom here. So it made it for kind of a bottom heavy radio, and although it did feel kind of good in the hand, it's quite big and bulky. This one feels really nice. Nice touch with the carbon fibers as well. I think that actually looks pretty good. So I think, unless I have some range issues or some glitching, this is actually going to be a winner. Okay, so now for the truck itself. Give you the old spin around as I always do. You can have a bit of a quick look at everything. Wheelie bar back here, LED light behind the wheelie bar just there. We have our wheels and tires, the body, and of course the front bumper with the front LED mounted on there as well. And you can see the little rubber tethers on the body there, on the body pins rather, holding everything in place. I actually don't mind the look of this truck. I think it actually looks pretty good. Can't wait to see what the truggy ones look like as well. I think they're going to look quite nice. So as we get into this, we're going to start with the wheels and tires, of course, and work our way in. Wheels and tires. Now the tires themselves actually feel pretty good. I don't mind the tread pattern on this, and you'll see that they've actually incorporated the little HPI logo into the tread, which is a cute thing to do. But for me, it's more about like the overall pattern. Is it going to actually grip, and is the rubber compound going to be any good? I can say that the foams actually feel really nice on this. I really like the foams, and you guys know that I complain about foams quite a bit on a lot of these RCs that I unbox here on the channel. The rubber compound also feels nice and soft and pliable. So hopefully the tread will do its job and will actually, hook up a little bit. And you'll notice as well the carcass of the tire, it's got a bit of a round to it, which I don't mind. I actually like that. A lot of race cars actually have a bit more of a round carcass on their tires, like your 10 scale buggies and things like that. Even the 8 scale buggies or truggies will have a little bit of a round carcass, which actually works quite well. So hopefully this will do the trick. The wheels themselves actually look fantastic. I don't mind, the green matching the body, and I think with the different colors that you get with this, you'll get different color wheels. I think the only ones that don't get colored wheels are the brushed vehicles. The brushed vehicles just get plain black wheels. So that's really the only thing. Suspension wise, I've got to say the suspension on this actually feels a lot nicer than in the previous Quantum trucks. Looks like they've done a little bit of homework with the suspension, which I do appreciate that. It's definitely a little bit softer, feels a bit more pliable, so I think the suspension is going to work a bit better. But that's only based on what it feels like. How it actually works might be a different story, so we'll see. Taking the body off here, and I'll show you a little bit more on this guy as well. The tethers as well have also got that HBI logo built in. They've even got the little hex on the base there, which is not bad. The body itself, you know, feels nice and thick. I'm just hoping that it's actual Lexan, not the PVC stuff that will shatter. It does have a few angles and a few grooves and things like that, which is good for styling, but it also helps with the rigidity of the body. So, you know, all these sort of vents and scoops that they put on the roofs and the bonnets and all that, you think, oh, it's a really cool looking thing, but there's actually, you know, a reason for all this is that it gives you a lot of vertical lines and it gives it more stiffness. So same thing here on the back, gives you a lot of vertical lines on this flatbed to give it a little bit more stiffness and make it a little bit stronger. So hopefully the body will hold up okay. There's no plastic reinforcements anywhere, so we'll see how that goes as we drive the truck. And here it is with the body off. You can see the layouts very similar to the previous trucks. We got our battery tray over on this side. Your servo is underneath the ESC just here. It actually points towards the center now. And we've got our ESC 80 amp brushless ESC mounted on top. Receiver box just here, on and off switch just there. We've got a 3660 3500 kV brushless motor, which I think these are all Hobby Wing electrics anyway, so this should be plenty powerful for this particular truck. The only thing they don't have is they don't have the push button on-off switch. At least they've put it, you know, or they've orientated the switch east and west as opposed to forward and back, which means that it's less likely to switch itself off, but you know, there's still a chance that that will happen. I will say this though, the switch can actually mount on the ESC just there. So there's a little sort of groove just here, that, or a little tongue that will slide into there. And I reckon if they had mounted the ESC just slightly more outwards, the on and off switch would have fitted there, but hopefully it'll hold on top of that receiver box just fine. Speaking of the receiver box, you can see that it has only a little body pin sort of holding it closed. This is not a fully watertight receiver box. It doesn't have a rubber seal or anything like that. However, on the side of the box, it does say that it's a waterproof receiver, which I find really interesting. I've not really seen too many waterproof receivers in RC cars. I don't know why they would have done that. Maybe it's just how the radio comes. It comes with that particular receiver. Yeah, just bear in mind that, you know, this is not a fully water sealed receiver box. Now you will notice as well that this also comes with XT60 connectors. This is a big step forward, I think, because one of my complaints in the previous cars was that they all came with Deans, and you know, Deans is kind of old, and a lot of times they're not genuine Deans, and they're just no good. So nice to see, you know, Maverick or HBI stepping away from the Dean's connector or T-style connector and going for these XT60s, especially the ones that don't even have a heat shrink on the back of them. They just have these little caps, which I think is really cool. The shocks are threaded body shocks with aluminium caps and everything else. Now, these aren't the best shocks. I mean, at least the previous ones weren't. They do sometimes leak a little bit, you know, especially if you do some really heavy jumps and things like that. And the shock shafts themselves aren't the strongest. So if you do have a big impact, you know, there's a chance that you might bend these shock shafts. But we'll see what happens with this truck, because I'm going based on previous experience with the older trucks. We'll see what happens with these ones if they give me any troubles. Wheelie bar back here, and of course the LED light bar is also mounted on the bumper back here. I kind of feel like, you know, the wheelie bar could have probably been mounted lower so that you could actually see the LED light. It seemed like whoever designed the wheelie bar didn't talk to the guy that decided to put the LED lights on the bumper, because you can see that it kind of blocks it. The wheelie bar is adjustable a little bit. You can see a couple of different mounting points there, but yeah, I just feel like maybe they could have mounted this lower and you would have been able to see that LED light bar quite easily. The bumper and the support actually feels kind of good. Feels like it, you know, that's strong enough and got enough flex that, you know, if you take a big enough hit, it's just not going to shatter and break into a million pieces. Same thing with the front bumper here. You can see it's got a bit of flex, a bit of give to it, which is nice. Adjustable body posts on the shock towers, both front and rear. This is obviously always welcomed because you know, if you wreck the original body, you want to go out and get a, you know, a Pro Line body or something like that. you can do that and adjust the body posters to make sure that the body sits nice and straight. Also got the tower-to-tower brace, of course, right here in the middle, and that's mounted just at both ends there to give the chassis a little bit of stiffness. The chassis itself, you can see there's still plastic, but this is a new chassis design that I'm hoping, will actually hold up pretty well. It's not going to give me any major dramas, especially where it mounts onto the bulkheads, because that was one of the things that the previous cars had an issue with, was they would just snap off where they mount onto the bulkhead. So we'll see what happens with this one. Hopefully the tower-to-tower brace will prevent a lot of that from happening. So yeah, we'll find out a little bit more as we go through. Drive shafts. Now these are pretty standard drive shafts. They still have CVDs on the front and dog bones on the rear. They look to be about, I don't know, maybe 3.5 millimeters thick, somewhere around there. So they might actually be the same ones from the previous cars, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure. There is a bit of flex on these arms as well, so I don't know if you'll be able to spot that on camera, but I can flex these arms quite easily. Same with the camber links here. They got a bit of give to them. However, the steering links have probably got too much give, and I'm gonna try and illustrate this. I'm just gonna hold this tire if I can. I'll see if I can position myself here, and you'll see just how easy, like that. I'm not like this is just very, very easy to flex these links. Yeah, I'm not sure that they're supposed to be that flexible. Like a little bit of flex is good, but that's probably too much. Now I have sort of reported back to HPI and said, hey, maybe these are a bit too thin, or they're too flexible. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll release an upgrade where you can just put some metal ones here or something like that. But I kind of feel like, yeah, you want a bit of give, but like the servo saver is here for a reason, right? I mean, it's going to add some protection, but I kind of feel like the servo saver doesn't even have to be there if you're going to have steering links that flex that easily. That's probably, yeah, my biggest criticism of this is just, I think maybe some of the plastics are a little bit too flexible. Anyway, we'll see what happens when we drive it as we go forward. But essentially, that's pretty much it as far as I can see. I mean, if you have any questions about this guy, by all means, leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll do my best to answer it. But yeah, that's pretty much what you get with the Quantum 2. Now, I've only got a couple of things on my wish list on this one, mainly because Maverick have actually done a pretty good job overall. I think they tick a lot of boxes with this truck. You got a very well featured radio that's not too big, and it feels good in the hand, and unless it has some range or glitching issues, I think that's going to be fine. You got a wheelie bar pre-installed, LED lights pre-installed. You got little rubber tethers for your body pins. The body feels good. Tower-to-tower brace, tires, foams, wheels, everything. They've ticked a lot of boxes. It's hard to criticize when it's done this well. The only thing, obviously, we're still waiting on a verdict on is the suspension setup, how it's going to actually perform when I drive the truck. However, the steering links are definitely an issue. I think that's one of the things that they can address in future shipments. I think these are too thin or too soft, or maybe a combination of both things. So hopefully we'll see some improvement on those in future shipments. And the last thing is really that antenna tube that you kind of have to install on the receiver box. The thing is, after working in the hobby shop for 5 years, you would be surprised, and it would probably blow your mind, how many people didn't install that antenna tube, not just on the Quantum cars, but on any car where you have to install an antenna tube. It's really quite amazing that nobody opens up the bag for the manual, nobody reads the manuals, very few people do. And those antennas used to get damaged quite often, and people ended up having to get new radios. And I think that although it may seem really trivial, and I think some of you may even be laughing at your screens right now, it's just one of those things that I think should be done from the factory. Like it's plus they don't give you the 1.5 millimeter Allen key to actually undo the little grub screw and put the antenna on and everything. So I don't know. It's just an idea. It's a wish list at the end of the day, but I think it's one of those things where so many people don't do it, and a lot of them, majority of them, don't even know that they have to do it. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for yet another unboxing. Thank you all very much for watching up until the end here. Also, a big shout out to HBI and Maverick for sending this one out for review. I really do appreciate them supporting the channel, and I'm very much looking forward to testing out this car and seeing how it compares to the previous Quantum cars, and obviously giving you all some feedback as we go along this journey and get to test out a new radio, a new truck, and just see what this particular vehicle has to offer. So that's pretty much it from me, guys. Be sure to hit that like button before you go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, check out the video description down below. I'll have links in there to where you can get one of these here in Australia, as well as links to my social media pages if you want to stay a little bit ahead of what goes on here on YouTube. Thank you again, and I'll speak to you all next time.